Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Coach Steve Show. Make sure you hit the like button and the subscribe button on the YouTube channel. Follow and right on Apple and iTunes. Follow me at Coach_Steve72 on Twitter. Leave a comment in the comment section down below, all that good stuff. And also check out the Belly Up Media Network at bellyupsports.com. Illinois Fighting Illini are 14th in the top 25, and they are finally ranked in the college football playoff for the very first time. They come in at number 16 in the college football playoff rankings. It's an exciting time for Illinois football that we always talk about. They will now be hosting the Michigan State Spartans, represented by Rocket Mortgage. Of course, we cannot forget that little part of them. But Michigan State's coming off their own little struggles of the year, losing to Michigan last week, then having the fight in the tunnel and dealing with suspended players. We are going to discuss the preview of Illinois Fighting Illini football versus the Michigan State Spartans in Champaign-Urbana. Illinois has high expectations now. They are now on people's radars. I believe people called them one of the most overrated teams so far, depending on who they've played. They do not care what people in the media are saying when they think they're overrated. Being ranked number 14 in the nation, the top 25, is a phenomenal feat for them. They are now 7-1, best start since 2001, and they are fighting to stay on top of the Big Ten West after winning all the games they needed to win. That stops them from any type of tiebreaker. They do have to get through Michigan State. They do have to get through Purdue. Then they have to play Michigan. Then they got to get through Northwestern. They could beat Purdue, buy your tickets, head to the Big Ten championship game, because it will be a great game where they are going to play either Michigan or Ohio State. Now they host Michigan State. Illinois is confident. They're flying high. Their defense is number one. Their offense is putting it together in the run game, short passing game. The 1-2 punch of DeVito and Chase Brown has been phenomenal. We've talked about the offensive line. I don't think they get enough love. The offensive line is figuring out the run game, the pass game. That Coach Miller is asking of them, coaching them to do. It's a fun time to be an Illinois Fighting Illini. They're now hosting Michigan State. Before we get to the Michigan State stats and the keys for Illinois to win, we do know about the Michigan State game versus Michigan. The fight in the tunnel afterwards. They are going to be dealing with suspended players. Mel Tucker has not been game playing as much for Illinois because he has been dealing with the authorities. They are now suspending players from Michigan State, putting down the hammer on some players. The Big Ten is getting involved, and then also any press charges against those players, and police and all different types of authorities are now getting involved. Michigan State has come off of an 11-win season in 2021. They were ranked number 4 at one point in the college football playoffs. They were talked about getting to the Big Ten championship last year. Then they decided that they're going to pay Mel Tucker lots and lots of money, paying him over $90 million to be there. He is about to earn that money, having to coach his way out of this paper bag that he has his team in right now. They are suspending lots of players. Just recently, they're going to suspend defensive ends Jacob Wyndham, Brandon Wright, cornerbacks Justin White and Malcolm Jones. Before that, they suspended linebacker Tate Brown, safety Angelo Gross, defensive end Zion Young, and quarterback Kerry Crump, with the involvement that happened in the tunnel fighting a Michigan player. It was on video. Everybody has it all over social media, all over the news, and they're going to be out some players. The feel of the locker room now of losing to your rival and dealing with the aftermath of that, where everybody's judging what's going on there. Everybody's looking at Michigan State going, what in the hell is going on there? Where Mel Tucker led this team to 11 wins, and then now he really has to earn the money because they are struggling this year compared to last year. Now you're dealing with suspended players. Now you're dealing with the authorities, police officers, dealing with everything. They're paying him $9.5 million this season. He has to get them through a tough time, having those A players suspended in the role of going after. There was 2 Michigan players that they went after Saturday. He says they're laser focused on Illinois, but he's been dealing with the authorities. So it's going to be a battle of Michigan State's mindset because they are 1-4 in the Big Ten. They are 3-5 overall. They are not the same team we were accustomed to seeing last year, where they would control the line of scrimmage, running the football, get short intermediate passes. Oh, kind of like what Illinois does this year. It's very Illinois-esque what they were doing last year. So Illinois is doing what Michigan State did last year. But regardless of what's happening, it's still going to be a tough game. Mel Tucker's still a good coach. He is going to get them as ready as he can. And Illinois is going to have to be ready, but it's good that they're at home. Illinois is now on a 6-game win streak hosting Michigan State. On ESPN, it is minus 17 for Illinois, which is, I don't know the last time you saw a line like that for Illinois. But going through comparative stats, Michigan State scores 24.8 points per game. They give up 27.4 points per game. Their defense is not doing too hot. They get 336 yards total a game, 239 through the air, 97.5 on the ground. That's way different than what you saw last year. They give up 424 yards per game, 256 through the air, and they will give up 168 on the ground. Illinois, we talked about, has the number one defense. They score 26 points on offense per game. The number one defense gives up 8.9 points per game. They get 409 yards per game, 212 through the air, 197 on the ground. Very balanced, more balanced than they have been before. They only give up 224 yards per game, 148 through the air, and they only give up 75.6 yards on the ground. Michigan State is a shell of themselves, again, of last year. Figuring out who they are this year was going to be a battle. Losing their running back last year, figuring out the run offense this year, you could see has not gone well. 97 yards rushing per game. Illinois only gives up 75.6. The battle here is going to be Illinois'. We talked about Michigan State's mindset. Illinois is going to have a similar mindset. They can't allow the suspended players to be a topic for them. They can't allow that to wender into their mind that they can walk in and beat this team, being a heavy favorite at home, number one in the Big Ten West. They can't allow that to sink into their minds. And if this was a previous Illinois team, we might sit here and say that is exactly the mindset that would sink in. But we've seen this Illinois team battle through things where they're not going to allow a thought like that to enter into their head. They are full steam ahead. I've said this over and over, and I repeat a lot of things when we do these previews. The moment they have won the game on the 6-game win streak, they enjoy it right after. So if the game is at 11 a.m., the game is over, at 1:30 or whatever it is, 2 o'clock. Let's say it's done at 2 o'clock. 2 to about 3 o'clock, you're seeing the tweets, you're seeing the interviews, they're having fun. Then right after 3 o'clock, they're all tweeting about on to the next one. Coach Bielema that night or the next morning retweets a lot of fun things that he is getting on social media, but he says we are already on to the next opponent. They have not overlooked anybody. The loss to Indiana still hurts because I think if Illinois played them again, Illinois beats them. The culture that is set from Coach Bielema has them ready for this game, but they cannot overlook Michigan State with the struggles they have had and the suspensions that they are dealing with. Their defense has to smell the blood in the water, and they have to pounce on Michigan State in the struggles that they are having this year. Michigan State has only won 3 games. They have beaten Western Michigan and Akron. They've lost to Washington, and Washington had to come back and beat them. They lost to Minnesota big. They lost to Maryland big. They lost to Ohio State big. They did beat Wisconsin, which was an impressive win, but then you lose to your rival in Michigan 29-7 when you were up, I believe, 7-3 or 7-0 at one point, and playing with them in the first half, and they came back and won. Now you're dealing with all the suspensions. Illinois has to be the aggressor. On defense, that's what they have been. Offense, we have come out hot, and then we cool off for a little bit, then we come back hot. The defensive line has to come out with the same type of intensity to stop the run as they did for Wisconsin. Michigan State throws the ball more this year than they did last year because they just don't have the same type of running backs. But Michigan State still wants to run the football. If the corners and safeties fly up and make the receivers uncomfortable, and the defensive line and those linebackers continue to do what they do, pressuring the O-line, pushing them back on a struggling run game, their quarterback has been sacked 14 times, they will do just fine. They have to take this and be like sharks and smell blood in the water, and they have to pounce on Michigan State. Their running backs are not doing too hot. A 384-yard rusher, 191-yard rusher, 168-yard rusher. They are not the same run team they've had. Peyton Thorne, their quarterback, has 12 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. He has been sacked 14 times. His completion percentage is 64.3%. If they can control the box and they can live and die by Peyton Thorne throwing little dink-dunk passes and this quote-unquote bend, don't break type of mentality on defense and bring the physicality and bring the boom and do what they do and get it rough on Peyton Thorne, get rough on those wide receivers and the running back, the defense is just going to do what they do. And Illinois fans, we have to be okay if something happens where Michigan State comes out just like Nebraska and is moving the ball here and there. We have to be perfectly fine with something like that happening. We can't hop on Twitter and start complaining about, well, what's the defense doing? What's this doing? What's this doing? Missed tackles or something like that. Sometimes an offensive player is going to make a play and they're just going to get that. We have to understand that that's what's going to happen, and we have to be okay with it. But that defensive line start feasting on this offensive line, especially in the run game. They are going to do just fine on that side of the ball. On offense, we have to continue to see the 1-2 punch from Tommy DeVito and Chase Brown. We know what Chase Brown brings to the table. We understand what he is going to be about. And we understand that the offensive line is going to continue to get better to get them in those, get Chase Brown in those opportunities to get the run. And we have to continue to see that 1-2 hit. It's a dynamic duo where Chase Brown is getting his stuff. The complement to that is Tommy DeVito hitting his receivers. 72.5% completion. DeVito, it's tied for third all with FBS quarterbacks. Even though they don't have the guy at receiver, though you could make an argument for Isaiah Williams, he's finding different receivers, which makes it difficult for you to say, are we stopping this guy? Are we stopping this guy? Or are we stopping that guy? It makes it very difficult. Chase Brown has 100 rush yards in each game this season. He's 116 yards away from overtaking Thomas Rooks, 2,887 rushing yards, and Jim Grabkowski, 2,878 rushing yards for third all-time in career rushing yards at Illinois. So Chase Brown's going to do his thing. Tommy DeVito is going to have to continue to find that rhythm and throw the football to these receivers that are working really, really hard to get open. They have impressed me getting open, and I'm not saying they're going to throw out these amazing numbers off the charts to you, but they continue to do that. You saw the yards. We are very almost 50-50, which is, I don't think Illinois is shooting for that on purpose because it's so hard to set that goal as a football coach. Say we are going to be, when we look at our averages, they're pretty balanced. It just happened to work out that way because of the great running back we have and Tommy DeVito and the way that he is playing. We just have to continue that. We have to continue getting the key screens going so Tommy DeVito starts to feel a rhythm throwing the football. The O-line has been great pass protecting, getting tight ends involved because Michigan State does give up a lot of yards passing and a lot of yards rushing. Their defense has struggled. They're struggling in tackling. They're struggling keeping things in front. So we have to look at maybe taking a deep shot here and there. Wheel routes with Chase Brown have been great this year, especially on opening drives to get up and get going quick And those are things we're going to have to take advantage of versus Michigan State. And just like I said, with the defense smelling blood in the water to pounce on Michigan State, Illinois' offense is going to have to pounce, especially with all the defensive players that we read off earlier that are suspended. That's who they definitely have to smell blood in the water and pounce. And they have to put their foot on their throat. If they get up 7-0 on them, just like with Nebraska, and the defense steps up, we have to then come out and have big drives that sometimes Illinois has been lacking this year. And I'm sure that's been a point talked about in the locker room and in coaching meetings. To go up 7-0, Illinois' defense comes out and stops them, to put a big drive together and at least get 3 points to go up 10-0. If you can get a touchdown, go up 14-0, that puts so much pressure on Michigan State to where they are going to try to get Thorne throwing. And if Thorne is throwing the way he's throwing for a lot of yards he's averaging a lot of passing yards. The receivers, he's dinking and dunking as well. If that's what they have to rely on to try to win, you have to feel pretty good. They're struggling running the football. They're relying on the pass, which they do not want to do. They don't feel comfortable with that, and you're seeing what's happening. They are 3-5, where Illinois is pretty balanced. They're running the football when they probably shouldn't. If it's 3-5, they're running the football, and they're getting first downs. Those type of things that Illinois is comfortable with, but they're also comfortable 3-5 turning and throwing. They're comfortable when that has to happen. I feel as Michigan State wanted to be a team to run the football, especially last year, that's what they wanted to rely on, and I think they want to rely on it this year. It just hasn't worked out, so they have to throw it more. It's not who they want to be right now. They don't have the type of players to continue to do that. Illinois just has to sit there and say, we're going to put our foot on their throat, and we're never taking it off. The offensive line is going to continue to grow and get better, and that's the best thing. Illinois hasn't hit their ceiling yet. They're having fun. The offensive line hasn't hit their ceiling yet. They continue to grow. They have room to grow. The wide receivers, they are getting better. You kind of compare them to the Bears wide receivers. The wide receivers are starting to get open more. The Illinois wide receivers are starting to run the routes hard. They're finding ways to get open, and DeVito is throwing them open. He's throwing it on time, and you have the leadership there. That's what we're going to continue to see from Michigan State. So Illinois is going to find a way to come out of this game again, stay on this hot win streak, stay first in the Big Ten West, and then head into a big-time game versus Purdue. But they are focused on Michigan State. They are going to get this win in Champaign-Urbana. It's going to get rolling. Bielema ball is there, and it's here to stay, and we are loving it. They are going to have a great time beating down the Michigan State Spartans, represented by Rocket Mortgage. Thank you guys again for watching or listening. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow and rate it on Apple and iTunes. Leave a comment in the comment section down below. Follow me at Coach_Steve72. Thank you guys so much again for watching and or listening, being a part of especially the Illinois episodes. And we will see you guys after a big Illinois win next time.